Picture her near the end, a nursing home in Pimlico. The grand houses are gone. Upper Grosvenor Street, in Inverurie Castle, the suite at Grosvenor House Hotel, where she had ordered room service and received visitors as though nothing had changed. All of it gone. But at her throat, still 3 strands of pearls, the same pearls she wore to the 1953 coronation, layered over diamonds in the front row of the peeresses at Westminster Abbey. The same pearls that appeared in society portraits for 40 years, anchoring tweed suits, ball gowns, the full ceremonial weight of a duchess. And the same pearls that appeared in a Polaroid photograph so explicit that it became the central exhibit in what the press called the divorce of the century. One piece of jewellery, 3 completely different stories about who Margaret Campbell was. She had spent her entire life building an identity from beautiful objects, converting her father's rayon fortune into the visual language of aristocracy, stone by stone, piece by piece. And in the end, the objects outlasted almost everything else. This is the story of what those jewels actually cost her, and what they meant when everything else was stripped away. The rayon heiress. Her father, George Hay Wyam, made his fortune as chairman of the Celanese Corporation, a major player in the rayon and synthetic textile industry, with board positions on both sides of the Atlantic. It was modern industrial wealth, not landed money. Respectable, substantial, and in the England of the 1920s, not quite enough. Margaret was born on the 1st of December 1912 in Newton Mearns, near Glasgow, and spent much of her childhood not in Scotland but in New York City, where her father's business interests were based. She returned to Britain as a teenager, understanding something that would shape every decision she ever made. In England, titles and lineage still trumped industrial fortunes. Her father's money bought access. It did not buy acceptance. Her strategy was to close that gap with beauty, couture, and jewellery, and she executed it with a precision that bordered on genius. In 1930, she was presented at court and acclaimed Debutante of the Year. At the Queen Charlotte's Ball, she wore a daring blue tulle dress by Norman Hartnell rather than the traditional white, a small, deliberate refusal to be bound by convention. Time magazine described her as Britain's most beautiful socialite. She was 19. She already understood that her appearance was a form of argument. Her social prominence in the early 1930s was such that she entered the cultural lexicon. In the British version of Cole Porter's song "You're the Top" from the musical Anything Goes, P.G. Wodehouse revised the lyric to include "You're Mrs. Sweeney," pairing her name with Mussolini's, which she later wrote she found flattering in one direction and less so in the other. That a Broadway lyric was rewritten for a London audience specifically to include her name tells you everything about the altitude she had reached. She moved through a constellation of suitors, princes, earls, press barons' sons, racing drivers, before settling, on the 21st of February, 1933, on Charles Francis Sweeney, an American businessman and amateur golfer, at the Brompton Oratory in London. The crowds outside were so large that traffic in Knightsbridge reportedly ground to a halt. And it was at this moment that the first of her great jewels appeared. Jewellery historians, drawing on photographic evidence, believe that a pair of Cartier diamond fringe earrings were acquired around 1933, most likely a wedding gift from her father. The provenance is not documented in surviving Cartier archives available to the public, but the timing and George Wigham's wealth make the hypothesis compelling. The earrings are classic high art deco, graduated diamond fringes suspended from a geometric top, baguette cut and brilliant cut stones combined to create movement and light, slender articulated drops that shimmer as the wearer moves. She wore them constantly throughout the 1930s and 1940s. In fashion spreads and society photographs, the glinting fringes became shorthand for Mrs. Sweeney. They were not heirlooms. They were purchases, a father's answer to the question of how you compete with women whose diamonds have been in the family for 200 years. The answer, it turns out, is that you buy better ones. The constructed Duchess. The marriage to Sweeney produced 3 children, and in 1943 a near-fatal accident. Margaret fell down a lift shaft in a London department store, sustained serious injuries, and spent months in hospital. Biographer Lindsay Spence, in The Grit in the Pearl, argues that the head injury exacerbated changes in her behaviour, increased impulsivity, risk-taking. Whether or not that is the complete picture, something shifted. And in that shift, jewellery and clothes became even more important as tools for reasserting control over an image that suddenly felt precarious. She met Ian Douglas Campbell in 1947. He would become the 11th Duke of Argyll. War-damaged, alcoholic, prone to gambling and prescription drugs, with 2 previous marriages both marked by accusations of physical and emotional abuse. He had been captured with the 51st Highland Division at Saint-Valery-en-Caux in 1940 and spent 5 years as a prisoner of war in Germany. He came with an ancient title, a crumbling castle, and a history that any clear-eyed woman might have read as a warning. Margaret read it as a challenge. Biographers point to the allure of the ducal coronet. As Duchess of Argyll, she would outrank most of the women who had once looked down on the Rayan heiress. She and Ian married in 1951. Her money funded significant renovations at Inverarray Castle, including modern plumbing and structural repairs. And around the time of this marriage, she acquired what became the most emblematic piece of her entire collection. The diamond trefoil tiara, most often described as the Cartier diamond shamrock tiara, is a kokoshnik-shaped band of diamonds surmounted by 5 large shamrock leaves, each composed of 3 heart-shaped lobes, creating a stylized fringe of foliage above the hairline. Most sources attribute it to Cartier, citing design similarities and a Cartier volume reproducing a portrait of Margaret wearing it, though no public Cartier archive entry has been located. It was likely commissioned or purchased shortly before or after her marriage to the Duke. Here is the detail that matters. It was not a Campbell family heirloom. It was never worn by previous Duchesses of Argyll. It was not retained at Inverarray after her departure. The Campbell jewel vault, it seems, was essentially empty. And so Margaret did what she had always done. She filled the gap herself. If the Cartier fringe earrings were a father's investment in his daughter's first marriage, the trefoil tiara was Margaret's own investment in a title. A purchased icon of duchesshood built to compensate for the inheritance that wasn't there. And then came the 2nd of June, 1953. The coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. As the wife of a Scottish duke, Margaret sat in the front row of the peeresses in Westminster Abbey, fully visible to cameras and newsreel audiences. The court photographer Baron captured her in full coronation robes, the diamond trefoil tiara crowning her head, the 3-strand pearl necklace at her throat, the Cartier diamond fringe earrings catching the Abbey light, and an additional diamond necklace layered over the pearls, a further declaration of brilliance that left nothing to chance. In Baron's images, she looks every inch the hereditary Duchess, serene, composed, enveloped in a sparkle that rivals many royal women present. Contemporary commentary noted her beauty and shimmering appearance without always acknowledging that her tiara was purchased, not ancestral, and that the pearls were her grandmother's rather than royal heirlooms. The camera cannot tell old diamonds from new. For a few hours, in the Abbey and in newsreel cinemas across the country, she was indistinguishable from women whose status rested on centuries of inheritance. The project that had begun with a blue hartnell dress at the Queen Charlotte's Ball in 1930 had reached its logical conclusion. She had assembled an identity from beautiful objects so effectively that the seam was invisible. It was the apex of everything she had built, and it was almost exactly the moment the architecture began to crack. The pearls in the Polaroid. By the late 1950s, the Campbell marriage had collapsed under the weight of Ian's addictions, financial crises at Inverarray, and mutual infidelities. Sometime around 1959, the Duke broke into a locked cupboard at their London home in Upper Grosvenor Street, with the help of his daughter and a locksmith, and found a cache of diaries, letters, and Polaroid photographs. The photographs showed Margaret naked or semi-naked, engaged in sexual acts with an unidentified man whose head was out of frame. The press would call him the Headless Man. Candidates floated in subsequent years included Duncan Sandys, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and several others. But no definitive identification has ever been made public, and Lord Denning, who reviewed the divorce papers in the context of the Profumo inquiry, ruled out at least one prominent suspect on medical and handwriting grounds without naming the man he had identified. The identity of the Headless Man is, in the end, a secondary question. The primary question, the one that destroyed her, was the pearls. In the most notorious of the Polaroids, Margaret is wearing nothing but her three-strand pearl necklace, the same necklace that appeared in the Baron portrait, the same necklace she had described in her autobiography as one of the essential things in life. Contemporary newspapers remarked on the shock of seeing it in this context. Later essays note that the pearls provided a dead giveaway that it was indeed the Duchess, her face obscured, her identity confirmed by the jewel at her throat. The pearls didn't change, only the gaze did. Where they had once signified continuity, refinement, the dignified matron, they now signified something the court and the tabloids were determined to punish. The same object, the same three strands, the same diamond clasp. But the context had shifted entirely, and with it, the meaning. The divorce proceedings stretched over 3.5 years, becoming one of the longest and most sensational in British legal history. Lord Wheatley's 50,000-word judgment, delivered in 1963, characterised her as a woman whose attitude to the sanctity of marriage was what the modern generation calls enlightened, but which in plain language can only be described as wholly immoral. He described her as engaged in disgusting sexual activities. One assertion from the Duke's pleadings, that she had slept with as many as 88 men, entered popular law, though biographers treat the figure with considerable skepticism. Ian Campbell had himself been unfaithful. He had a documented history of financial exploitation and, in both previous marriages, accusations of physical abuse. The court focused overwhelmingly on Margaret. Lindsay Spence and other historians have written about this with clarity. What was being punished was not simply infidelity, but the repurposing of the symbols of respectability in a sexual context. Mid-century Britain could tolerate a great deal. What it could not tolerate was a woman using the visual language of the Duchess, the pearls, the poise, the front row at the coronation, while also claiming a private life on her own terms. The pearls had always been the most personal piece in her collection. Inherited, not purchased, a thread connecting her to something older than ambition, and in the end, they were the thread that unravelled everything. She retained the style Margaret, Duchess of Argyll after the divorce. The definite article dropped in accordance with British convention for divorced peeresses. A small typographical change, an enormous social one. The disappearing jewels. She continued to be photographed wearing the trefoil tiara, the Cartier fringe earrings, and the pearl necklace into the mid-1960s. The jewels that had built her public image survived the legal storm of the divorce. What they could not survive was what came next. Sometime in the mid-1960s, her London home was burgled. A detailed discussion on a royal jewels message board, drawing on close study of photographic sequences, notes that the tiara and the diamond earrings were among the pieces stolen, while the pearl necklace uniquely escaped. The royal watcher's profile of the Cartier fringe earrings confirms that their current location is unknown, and that the 1970 robbery and subsequent financial difficulties may mean that they were stolen or sold, though they might alternatively have passed to her daughter Frances, now Dowager Duchess of Rutland. The trefoil tiara's fate is equally uncertain. No tiara clearly matching it has surfaced in major public auctions. Unlike the Dufferin and Ava Shamrock tiara, which is now in the Victoria and Albert Museum, Margaret's trefoil coronet has simply left the public eye. Jewellery writers describe its whereabouts as unknown, a word that, in this context, covers both theft and private dispersal. One by one, the physical tokens of the identity she had constructed vanished. Her fortune eroded steadily through the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. Her father's death removed the financial safety net. Legal bills from the divorce and subsequent actions drained what remained. She opened her London house to paying tour groups, a painful inversion of the grand hostess she had been. By 1978, mounting debts forced her to leave Upper Grosvenor Street entirely and move, with her maid, into a suite at the Grosvenor House Hotel, where she attempted to maintain the routines of a grand lady, ordering room service, receiving visitors, even as unpaid bills accumulated. In 1990, she was evicted. The humiliation was widely reported. And then, in 2020, something extraordinary happened. At the Academy Awards that year, the actor Timothée Chalamet appeared wearing a Cartier diamond and ruby brooch, a cluster of Burmese rubies set in a stylized geometric diamond surround on loan from the Cartier collection. British Royal Jewels and the Royal Watcher identified it as Margaret's brooch. The piece she had acquired in the mid-1950s, possibly as a consolation after an earlier theft, and worn to her daughter Frances's coming-out ball at Claridge's in 1955. The brooch she had pinned to her gown at a ball at Belvoir Castle in 1965, paired with the trefoil tiara and the three-strand pearls in one of the last great public outings of her full ensemble. Now it was part of the Cartier collection, worn by a young male film star at Hollywood's most glamorous evening. Her name barely attached to it outside specialist circles. A piece she had chosen for herself, not a father's gift, not a husband's title, had outlasted everything and returned to the world without her. 3 strands of pearls. She died on the 25th of July, 1993, in the Pimlico nursing home, aged 80. She was buried beside her first husband, Charles Sweeney, in Surrey, a final alignment with the man and the phase of her life least associated with public disgrace. The diamonds were gone, the tiara was gone, the ruby brooch belonged to Cartier, but the pearls, the 3 strands inherited from her grandmother, the one piece in her entire collection that money had not bought, appear in photographs taken near the end of her life. She had insisted on them, it seems, through everything. There is something in that worth sitting with. Every other jewel in her collection was a transaction. The Cartier earrings were a father's investment. The trefoil tiara was a purchased claim on a title. The diamond necklaces were layers of borrowed brilliance. But the pearls came from her grandmother. They were the one thread in her life that connected her to something older than ambition. Something that didn't need to be constructed or justified or defended in court. They were the only jewels she never had to buy, and perhaps that is why they were the only ones that stayed. Margaret Campbell has been reduced in most retellings to a single scandalous headline. But I find myself thinking about the woman who put on 3 strands of pearls every morning in a Pimlico nursing home, and what that gesture meant to her when almost everything else was gone. Was she a woman destroyed by her own ambition, or by a world that punished her for having any at all? I'd genuinely love to know what you think. Leave your answer in the comments. And if this story moved you, a like helps this channel reach more people who care about the women history tends to flatten into footnotes. Subscribe and you won't miss the next one.